Welcome back to the Servant Warrior Servant Leader podcast. It's been a long day and too much coffee. We're glad you're back this week. We have an exciting guest. I can't wait to hear his story and figure out how he's become the master of what he is the master of. So today we're joined by Mark Sturczewski, better known as Mr. Productivity. He's a Houston based coach and host of the Mr. Productivity podcast. And the dude is rocking it with over 1,340 episodes and thousands of downloads internationally. His goal, his mission, his vision is to equip busy professionals to crush, overwhelm, and reclaim focus. Drawing on his corporate grit and daily running discipline, which I'm impressed with because I couldn't do that, Mark shares his proven distraction detox framework to turn digital chaos into high-impact action. Mark, welcome to the show.
Pat, I am so thankful to be here and to be able to share value both with you and with your listeners.
Well, let's jump into it. I told you this is going to be kind of an open mic night. We have no prepared script. I didn't give you any questions in advance. I don't think I'll catch you sideways or anything like that. But tell us a little bit about yourself and how have you come to master productivity in the workplace and in your personal life?
Well, I used to tell people that it all started when I was fired from my corporate job back in 2005. And I hired a coach. I didn't know at that time that coaches were anything other than sports coaches. But this coach happened to see something in me. And he said to me, because I identify as Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. I was born in 1965, so I like using that analogy. And I was having an ER moment, and he said to me, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, I really like speaking and teaching, but I can't find a topic I want to talk about." He goes, "Well, why don't you talk about productivity?" And I remember saying to him, I'm like, "Well, where did that come from? I mean, why would you say that?" He goes, "I know a lot of people, and you are one of the most productive people I know, and you should share that gift with the world." But every time I'm on a podcast like yours and they ask me, "How did you get to be so productive?" I did some soul searching and I realized I had to go back to my childhood. I'm a product of the 60s. I grew up in a household. I was the only child. I think when my parents had me, they said, "Oh, this is enough for us." But what happened is I had to do chores correctly when they had to be done. And I couldn't go outside and play with my friends unless the chores were done. Dinner was at a certain time, and I had chores after dinner. And we didn't know that I would be the future Mr. Productivity, but that kind of set the foundation of why I'm Mr. Productivity. And I get so lit up when I get people unstuck. It makes me happy because people go through life, they're stuck, and then I help them get unstuck. And then they're like, "I got my life back." And to me, that's what it's all about.
That's awesome. Now, unscripted question. Is there a fine line between being very productive and, pardon the expression, being very anal and rigid?
Yes. I've never been asked that question before, and there is, because let me share this with you. I love European football. We call it soccer in the United States. And when people find out that I watch football during the afternoon, during the week, they're like, "Wait, you're Mr. Productivity. Why are you watching football?" I'm like, "It's all part of the process." See, football brings me joy. And when people are joyful, they tend to be productive. So I will do work before the match and after the match. So it is actually helping me with being productive. Now, some people who are anal will say, "Oh, if you're not doing productive stuff, such as doing emails, doing outreach, making phone calls, creating content, you're not being productive." I disagree with that. I think, number one, everyone's got to define productivity for themselves. What does being productive mean to you? Now, I think the umbrella definition of productivity means doing what you need to do that's going to move you towards your goals. That is my broad definition of productivity. But Pat, you'll have a different definition than me. Maybe you like watching the NBA every Tuesday night from 7 to 9, and that brings you joy, which helps you be productive. So I don't like saying finite definitions of productivity, but I do know people, I've read their books, I've talked to them in person, and they are like, no, that's not being productive. Don't do this. Don't do this. I'm like, well, now you're making me stressed. And when you're stressed, you can't be productive.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And no, it's not the NBA. It's the NFL. It's the Kansas City Chiefs, and I really love it only when they win, and they haven't been doing so well a good job at winning, and then my wife's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan
Uh-oh.
because that's where she grew up at, and it's never a joyful moment when the Steelers play the Chiefs. But fortunately, that only happens about once every 3 years
Okay.
in the schedule. But man, that's a great analogy. And the other thing, what kind of struck me was the people that go, no, no, no. They're very rigid and very structured. Is to me that tells me, oh, okay, they're a manager, they're a process person, and and I think less in the management style and more in the leadership style of not being the boss all the time. There's times where you got, in law enforcement, oh yeah, there's times bar stars and stripes, boom, do it because I said so, type deal. But how do you deal with someone who is so rigid and structured at work, but in their personal life, you're going, man, dude, you get it. You're not going with the flow, but you're being open to opportunities, to changes, to quality time, to enjoying life with your family and stuff like that. Have you seen that being kind of a conflict for somebody, that they're two different people, one at work
Oh,
and
yeah.
one at home?
Oh, yeah. It depends on if they're in a leadership position or if they're just like on the front lines. But we are the same people, whether we're at work or at home. And what I see a lot in my clients is they go, no, there's my work self and my home self. I'm like, no, you're the same person. So why are you like, some people are really productive at work and they're really lazy at home. Some people are productive at home and lazy at work. And I'm like, we have a problem. We've got to make these two coalesce because they
Mm-hmm.
got to be the same. Because how are you so productive at work and you come home and you're like, I don't care whatever happens. I'm just going to like be lazy. You're the same person. You have the same brain. What happened? And I'm fascinated by people who think that it's black and white. I'm this way at work and this way at home. I work from home, but even in the corporate America, before I got fired back in 2005, I was the same person. I was productive at home and productive in the workplace. So when I come across someone like that, I'm really curious. Why? It's like you're Clark Kent and you take off the Superman uniform and then you're lazy. I mean, I think it's fascinating because I like to ask people why. Why do you do that? Because it's got to be a choice. I don't think it's like automatic that you all of a sudden you come in your front door and you're lazy. There's something else going on there, and I like diving deep into those conversations.
So is that where the detox framework comes into play? I mean,
Well, the detox framework is my way of telling people that we are doing too much. Yes, when I say detox, the first thing people think about correctly is their phones, their technology. But what else are you doing that is causing you stress? See, a lot of people are struggling with being productive because they have stress. It could be stress because they can't get off of social media, or they're having conversations, or shall we say, heated discussions with people, or maybe you have kids, or maybe they're stressed at work. So, what the whole detox framework is how do we minimize that stress? Because when you are stressed, you are not able to be as productive because you may want to do this task, but now you're like, man, I gotta address this situation. This is going on, and you can't compartmentalize. And so what I try to tell people, and I love what I do as coaching because everyone's different. It's like, let's find out what is holding you back from being the most productive version of yourself. Let's try to untangle that. I always use the analogy of the old Apple corded headphones. No matter how careful you are with them, they always got tangled. So, like, let's untangle these headphones and give you your life back.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think you and I both kind of come from um, similar worlds in that we actually understand the difference between coaching someone and mentoring someone. So to clear up for the audience, uh, be, because of the analogy of sports, most people, you hear the word coach, and the coach is the one that's calling the plays and telling you what to do and how to do it and when to do it. When in reality, that's, yeah, they're calling the plays, but when you and I in the corporate world, or me in the law enforcement arena, when we're coaching people, we can do it and they never know they're being coached
Mm-hmm.
because we're out there identifying it through conversation. You say the deep dive that we're building rapport and relationship, and a coach is learning what your strengths are and what your areas are that you need improvement, and then we help you discover what skill sets and talents and temperament you have. Just like in the NFL, that the quarterback comes up to the line after he's been told it in his ears, what play to call. He walks up and goes, "Wait a minute, the landscape, the defense is not lined up," and he does an audible and changes the play. And the coaches congratulate him if that play works, get a little disappointed if it doesn't. But coaching in the corporate world, can you give some insights to what the reality, what that really looks like, as opposed to what people probably are thinking it looks like?
Coaching in the professional aspect of the corporate world involves a lot of listening, and people who have never hired a coach. And I always ask someone when they hire me, have you ever worked with a coach before? Because that tells me how I should approach this conversation.
Mhm.
Because I'm not here to tell you, oh, A plus B equals C. What I do is I ask you a bunch of questions and I listen. And I'm like, whoa, you just said something. Let's rewind the tape. Tell me more about this. And all of a sudden we're going down this avenue and they're like, wow, I didn't realize I had a roadblock here. Because what happens is you're in the forest and you can't see the trees.
Mhm.
And what I try to do is I try to get people to talk a lot because the more people talk, the more they reveal about themselves, and the more you can go, oh, now I know what's going on. But people come in at surface level. Like, even though I help people be more productive, I help with time management, I help them with priorities, with focusing and clarity. The first call we have is all about getting clear. And everybody says, I'm already clear. I said, just humor me. Let's talk about where have you been? Where are you now? Where you want to go? And at the end of the conversation, they just like look lost. I'm like, it's all right. Before I can start helping you, I got to know where you are in the process. And guess what? We're all on this journey. Nobody has life figured out. I got news for you. That's why coaches have coaches so they can keep on serving their audience.
Yeah, no, that absolutely. And I think John Maxwell probably put it the best in the back at, gosh, man, it's been 13 years ago. I met John and went through some training under him. And he said, if you want great answers, you have to ask great questions. And
Mm-hmm.
so often in the rush of life and in the stressors of the workplace, we just assume answers, or we become bosses
Mm-hmm.
and we don't ask great questions. And I think one of the things that people really should understand, because you and I are both in the coaching, profession, is we're going to ask you questions like, "So, what's your perfect dream job?" And that's going to give us your answer if it's going to be, well, I want to be the CEO of this company, or I want to be an entrepreneur and start my own company. And they'll tell you what their dreams are. And they're saying that because they have a sense of what they're capable of, as opposed to if you go, well, tell me about your strengths, tell me about your weaknesses. Then they feel like they're being cross-examined. But
Yeah.
but the great question is to find strengths is, and we would do this with young officers and recruits in the academy, and even in the we call it the oral review board process. They're not even hired or selected yet, and we'd ask that question. You join our department. We're a 500-man department. You join our department. What's your dream job? And if they go, well, someday I want to be the chief here, then okay, that's the strength. You genuinely believe you're not being a smart aleck. You genuinely believe you can achieve that. Then I'm going to find out your weaknesses by going, well, what's preventing you from achieving that goal?
Mhm.
And I think people misunderstand what coaches are because they're expecting us to give them the answers to everything and
Mhm.
how to do things, when to do it, all that. And that's more mentoring than it is coaching. Uh, what do you see in your coaching experience, particularly it's people that are in high stress, fluctuating environments like law enforcement, like sales, like I don't know if you have any folks that are in that stock market world where things change on a dime because of what somebody said out loud and on a hot mic, and it makes the news. What are some of the biggest obstacles you see or pushback you get from people of, well, I don't think this is going to work?
Well, before I answer that question, I got to say John Maxwell has got a killer voice. That guy has got that baritone voice. I'm telling you, when you said his name, I'm like, I heard his voice in my headphones. It's incredible. So when people, I struggle with people who come to me like I'm a miracle worker, and they, to your point, they don't understand that they have to do the work. I can give them guidance. I can give them pearls of wisdom. I could tell them to work with other people, but you have got to be fully committed to doing the work. One of my books, one of the books I love reading is Grant Cardone's Be Obsessed or Be Average. A lot of people are just average. They just whatever, they'll just float down the river in the inner tube, and wherever it takes them, they're okay with. But if you want to succeed in life, if you I love studying successful people. And I don't know anybody who got to be successful who made excuses, who blamed other people. They went all in and they took full responsibility, and they realized, hey, I got an issue because something's blocking me from going from A to B. I think it's here. So I'm going to go hire this coach to help me overcome that. And people, thankfully, the people who reach out to people like us, they're already have already conquered that mountain because they've already seen that they're being limited some way. And now they're saying,
Mhm.
I need help. I think if they're that narcissistic and they don't think they have a problem, they're probably not going to reach out to a coach. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, yeah. Ego is the enemy by Ryan Holiday. Yeah, that's 100%. And the truth of your statement is, I finally just a couple weeks ago decided, you know what, I'm gonna jump into the deep end and do a TEDx. And I know nothing about TEDx, absolutely nothing. And and I have a lot of self confidence. 100% Irish. I got the gift of gab. I can talk all day long. I can talk, spontaneously, Toastmasters, all that kind of stuff. I know nothing about TEDx. So what I do, boom, I picked up a coach, and I'm paying this guy in 90 days. I want to be able to be performance ready for TEDx. And this is what the guy does for a living. So he's been there, done that. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, and it's worth the investment to hire a coach. As long as you do, like you say, you understand the context of it is he's not a speech writer. He's not going to give the speech for me or anything like that. All the work, he's going to give me homework, all sorts of stuff, and I'm going to have to practice and videotape and send it to him to critique it. But if I want that end goal to be reached, I can't get there by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, uh, So I know you made a point, and we've talked offline before today. The discipline of running. How has that specific for you? That specific practice, that discipline. How has that improved your ability at being more productive?
Well, when I first started my running streak, which is coming up on 3,000 days in a row, I wasn't even overthinking it. I was like, you know what? We had Hurricane Harvey come back, hit Houston in August 2017. And I happened to read an article on runnersworld.com about what I learned from running 1 mile every day for 250 days. And I told my wife, I'm going to try this. I had no idea I'd be approaching it over 8 years and 3,000 days. But the more I ran, because one day turned into 10, turned into 100, turned into 500, turned into 1,000, 2,000. And now I realize that when people ask me, wow, how did you run every day for 3,000 days in a row? And I'm like, well, you know what? Now I think about it. I don't like excuses. I just celebrated my 60th birthday this year. I'm blind in one eye. I have no balance. I'm not an athlete by any stretch of imagination. I wouldn't, play European football, American football, or anything like that. But I have proven that I can do it. And I know other people who started running when they're 60, 70, 80 years old. So now it has become a thing that says, hey, I did it. So what is that one thing you want to do? Start running every day? Start a podcast, start a YouTube channel. You want to learn to speak a language. There are people who have done what you want to do in the world. So you can fall back and go, well, has anybody else ever done X? Probably yes. So go read their books, listen to their podcasts, follow them on social media, and find out how they did it. But Mark, what if I want to do something no one has ever done? Congratulations, you could be the trailblazer. So don't live your life on excuses. Excuses stink. They smell like rotten fish. Go out and do. As a result of listening to this podcast, go out and start doing that one thing you want to do. Now, for example, I use this analogy all the time. Let's say you want to summit Mount Everest. Well, you just can't fly to Nepal and climb Mount Everest tomorrow. But you can go to the interwebs, you can go to AI and go, okay, I'm thinking about summiting Mount Everest. What should I do next? What should be my first step do? What should my first step be? And then start working the steps. It may take you 7 years, but you've got to start. We all hear this. Everybody says, just start, just start. And we hear it. It goes in one ear and out the other. But if you want to achieve any form of success, you got to start, because guess what? Nobody's going to come to your house and say, hey, Mark, you want to summit Mount Everest? Here's a list. Here's what you got to do. I'll coach you. You're going to have to go out there and say, hey, I want to do this. How do I do it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. That's great advice. And, Mount Everest, I did a 14er. That was good enough for me. I hiked up a 14er in the Rockies, but we started at like 7,000 feet because that's where the parking lot was. So it wasn't really going from, sea level to 14,000, but it was still, it was a challenge. And I really encourage people that's on the one end. By the way, being blind in one eye would not prevent you from playing American football, because there was a one-eyed blind professional receiver in the NFL. He got blinded by being in a bar fight.
Oh, wow.
And he was already a professional athlete at that time. Uh, and he continued his career even though he could only see out of one eye. And that was Fred Urbanus with the Kansas City Chiefs
Oh, interesting.
back in the 60s. But anyway, so yeah, it can be. You can be that far up. A buddy of mine, Google him, just Google the human calculator. And Scott he lives in nowhere. God, he's going to kill me when I say this. Uh, he lives in nowhere, New York, Herkimer, New York. And he is the Guinness Book of World Records holder for decades. That he does math faster than any calculator can do it. And so it can be something as great as that, or it could be something as simple as, hey, I have fallen away from. I'm not saying me falling away individually, but if you're in a position where, hey, I was raised. This is what you hear all the time. Oh, I was raised Roman Catholic, but I don't go to church anymore. And your goal is that you feel that you need to, make that commitment or come back to whatever your faith was that you were raised in. It can be something as simple as that. Hey, I'm going to make a commitment that once a week I'm going to, if I'm Catholic, I'm going to go to mass. If I'm Protestant, I'm going to go to a service, and I don't have to go Sunday, Wednesday, and join a Bible study. 3 nights a week. No, just take that one individual goal of I'm going to make that commitment, and then and I think you probably have had this same experience and even share this with people you coach. It's not enough to set those goals and objectives and have your strategies and strategic steps and all those things you're going to do to achieve it, and then you cross that finish line and go, okay, well now I'm gonna get some new goals. What we do is I have found is that is not psychologically helpful. We don't celebrate when we achieve our goals. Even if nobody knows, oh yeah, I'm going to summit Mount Everest. Okay, well, everybody and his brother, knows that because one, you're doing fundraising to make, be able to afford it. But what if it was something as simple as, I'm going to run my first marathon, and me and 5,000 other people are going to run this marathon. And what are you going to do when you achieve that? And I tell this to cops, when you are given an attaboy for doing something extraordinary on the job, and it could be a Medal of Valor extraordinary, or it could be something much less, and you go, I was just doing my job. Well, for you personally and psychologically, you've just taken the air out of your tires. And secondly, the person that is trying to give you credit feels a little bit foolish of, oh, I guess I shouldn't have said anything. Mm-hmm. So I have found one of the most important things in achieving goals is when you do achieve it, celebrate it. However, that nobody has to know. Yeah, I tell these young kids, the 21, 22-year-olds coming out of the police academy, instead of drinking Coors Light, now you can have a Guinness. You're going to go out and have some, you're going to up your game in your selection of beers and just celebrate. And so I don't know if you've had that experience that people don't give themselves enough credit I don't mean about the moment, but enjoy the fact that, man, I set a goal for myself and I achieved it.
Yeah, I think when I say we, I mean the collective we, have lost touch with gratitude. And there's gratitude journals, but you could just do this in your head. You have a lot to be thankful for. When I come across people like, I got nothing to be thankful for, I say, well, we're on a Zoom call, so that tells me you know how to use technology. you have the internet, you have a computer, you can see and hear me. And like, okay, I get the point. I said, no, you don't get the point, because you are only celebrating when I landed a big client, or I got a big guest for my podcast, or I finally published my book. But along the way, you're going to have way more tiny wins than big wins. And I say, celebrate all the wins, big, small, minuscule, huge, celebrate them all, because for me, it's motivating. One of the things I like to do is I have an app on my iPhone called Streaks, and I track how many days in a row I've run. Now, it's supposed to be a habit tracker. Nearing 3,000 days of running, I don't need to track it, but that number going up keeps me motivated. And I got other things like cold showers and walking 15,000 steps. It's such a habit now, but for me, it's built-in motivation, because when I start a new habit, when I get about 7 or 10 days, I don't want to go back to zero. So it keeps me motivated. You have got to be your biggest cheerleader. The biggest cheerleader shouldn't be your spouse or your parents, your coworkers. It should be you. You should be so happy at the work you're doing and say, I'm awesome. I'm doing a great job. Because if you're waiting for other people, good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. And be careful about saying it too loud or too proud, because and this is a psychology that kind of goes behind what you just shared. Is everything begins with the thought, and how you think develops attitudes, and that's what an attitude is: a settled way of thinking. Nobody can read your mind. You have kids. Your parents couldn't read your mind, but boy, I bet your dad said to you one time, I don't like your attitude." And what he was really saying, or your mom said it, and then you got a whipping for it, it is that they can't read your mind, but your attitudes display, your behaviors display that attitude that's going on up here in your head. And so if you have an attitude, it's like, I'm not eating green beans, yeah, as a kid, or whatever it is, and it's a negative attitude. I'm not going to do something. I'm not going to talk to somebody. I'm not, whatever it is. That's an attitude, which I get, because we're human. And then my behaviors are going to display that attitude. Repeated behaviors become habits, and then habits become your culture, what you expect and accept of yourself, or in the workplace. If you're Kermit the Frog drinking the tea, going, "Hey, it's none of my business," or you're on that, I call it the lazy river ride. It is what it is. If that's your attitude, it is what it is. Then your behaviors are going to reflect that, and those repeated behaviors become what you expect and accept from yourself and others. Mm-hmm. So in the workplace, or in your home, whatever it is, really be conscientious about what you're thinking. And if you're always looking for the worst in somebody, you always find it. So the flip side is, in the coaching arena, is we want to encourage you to think in the positive, in the possible, not in, and maybe even the impossible. What you think is impossible, how can you achieve it, as opposed to, it is what it is. Because you're never going to grow and however you define success, you're never going to reach that if up here your thought process is, it is what it is. So
it's funny because I'll just share this story with you. Many years ago, my late parents used to work for Disney in Florida, and I don't know if this is still the case, but they were told during their orientation, if you feel like you're in a bad mood, call in and say, I've got a bad mood today, because they didn't want you coming into the park greeting the guests like a curmudgeon. Now, that may not be true today, but it was back then.
Yeah. No, it's the classic, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, well, okay, then we're going to have to address this. And if you are having a bad day, share that with somebody, because we all have bad days, and we can even
Yep.
have bad weeks. But when it turns into a bad day is now a bad month, is a bad quarter, a bad year, then we're we're struggling and spiraling out of
Yeah.
control. And you need to share that with somebody, within your circle of influence. Otherwise, that's PTSD coming down
Yep.
the train track at 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
So there's so much that goes with it, and even if you are not inclined to want to hire a professional coach, you need somebody in your life that is that coach,
Mhm.
and that you can turn to and go, hey, it's like a quarterback. Man, I'm just struggling. I can't complete any passes. He goes to the quarterback coach and says, "What am I doing wrong?
Mhm.
Help analyze. Tell me, what's going on." And probably the coach is going to start asking you a lot of questions. Well, what's distracting you from being focused?
Yep.
Because we know you can do it. So that's a lot. So, and I'll tell you what, we could go for hours talking. Can you share kind of what's your call to action for people, and how can they reach out to you to learn more and be more productive?
Well, I invite people to go to my website, MrProductivity.com. That's MISTER, MrProductivity.com, and take my free productivity scorecard. It's 10 questions, and the key is to answer the questions honestly. It's going to ask you, it's going to give you a statement, and this always happens, somewhat, whatever. And I will send you an email with your score and tell you what you're doing great and where you need some improvements, and offer to get on a call with you to see if you want to discuss your issues. It's my gift to you. I've had people who are very productive gone and take the score. No one's got a 50 out of 50. No one. And I wouldn't even score a 50 out of 50. If you go to MrProductivity.com, you can find that. You can also find my podcast. I've been doing my podcast for over 8 years, which is absolutely insane to me. And it happened because in the spring of 2017, I heard an entrepreneur I respect a lot, Gary Vaynerchuk, also known as Gary V. He said the future is voice and audio, and everyone needs to have a podcast. I wonder how many people heard that and went on with their day. I went to Google and said, how do I start a podcast? And now here I am, over 1,340 episodes and growing with the podcast. And you can find out everything you want to know about me at MrProductivity.com. Just remember to spell out the word Mr.
Awesome, awesome. I I follow Gary V. And sometimes it's like a punch in the gut. Other times I have a good laugh or whatever. The guy's, I mean, you talk about authentic. He doesn't hold back.
Nope.
I learned a lot from him. And one of those messages, you should have a podcast. You should write a book. And so I've written two books, and that was 2013, not 20, yeah, 2013 and 2018. Wrote each of those books. And then finally, I got, the whole thing, you need a podcast. So I decided December of last year, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm technologically completely inept. Uh, and so same thing like I'm doing for the TEDx is, the people go, oh, well, there's a YouTube for that. I'm like, I don't even have a YouTube channel. Well, what? I mean, I do now, but I didn't then. And I'm like, so I ended up hiring Tony Taylor, retired firefighter out on the Washington State, and I'm searching for a coach and mentor, both a coach and a mentor, to stand up a podcast. And I'm like, okay, Tony's going to understand me because we both come out of that first responder world.
Mhm.
And I hired him, and I said, in 90 days, I want to have a podcast ready production to go. And we launched March 3rd of this year, and we're
Excellent.
we're now on 6 continents, pushing 3,000 downloads in 14 countries. and you know what his first question was? He goes, "Hey, when you launch this thing, do you think you might be able to get 50 to 100 people that you know to listen to the podcast?" And I don't know if he was, was not that I would underperform, but I thought, well, I can do that. And I went from 14 on the first episode to 150 or 200 the second episode. So it's achievable if you put your mind to it and you get the the right people to surround yourself with. So I
I
hope people.
remember the first episode I did back in July 17, 2017. I had 25 downloads in the first couple of days. And I thought to myself, I know I downloaded it. My wife downloaded it. Who are these other 23 people? And I was blown away. Then I got caught up into the amount of downloads because I used to
Yep.
do guest interviews on my show. And the number one thing you could ask me to get disqualified is how many downloads you have.
Hmm.
Because that the number means nothing. First of all, there's so many podcast players, the numbers aren't even accurate. But number two, that tells me you're not coming on the show to serve. You're coming on the show because you want something. And I'm like, I don't want you on my show. If
Yep.
all you care about is what my download numbers are, I don't want you on the show. It's like social media. You're a big Gary Vee fan. I used to stress about how many followers I have on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. And he goes, that doesn't matter anymore because it's each individual creative. So you could have 4 followers and have a $4 million view video. And so I still peak occasionally, but now it's all about creating the greatest content I possibly can because nobody cares about followers anymore. Literally, who cares? Because most of
Yeah.
my followers are probably bots anyway, so who cares? So it's all about creating value. So I post on all the social media platforms. I drop a new podcast every week. It's all about creating value. So you and I don't want to assume your age, but I got to believe you're around 60. Am I correct?
Closer to 70.
Okay.
A lot
So you
closer. A
remember
lot closer.
So you remember that the back in the day, you had the yellow pages, you had
Yeah.
TV commercials, you had billboards, direct mail. Now you really have to lead with value because people are like, well, why should I invest in Mr. Productivity? Why?
Yeah.
Now I got to prove myself. I can say, well, check out my podcast, look at my stuff on social media, sign up for my email newsletter, take my free productivity scorecard. Now I'm like, oh man, this guy knows what he's talking about. Now I prove my worth. Then they're like, well, if he gives this much information for free, imagine if I hired him. That's what we have to do. There's no more of this. Hey, I opened the shop. This is the mistake I made when
Yeah.
I went in business back in 2011. I thought I'm in business, crickets, tumbleweeds, because people go, who cares? Who cares? Now, today in 2025, you know as well as I do, you got to prove your worth and then you'll start getting the clients.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And everybody, in the podcasting world goes, "Oh, I want to be Joe Rogan." Well, if that you want to be a photocopy of somebody else, good luck with
Yeah.
that. And you better have maybe, I don't know, 1 million people that already know who you are, you know,
Yep.
and otherwise, there's actually a young kid. He was born in 1991. He died 2006. He's now a saint in the Catholic Church. Carlo Acutis, Acutis, just was made a saint, canonized this year, actually just a couple months ago. And this is a 15-year-old who he died of leukemia. And it was really, in a way, it was it was sad. He had symptoms that he knew there was something wrong with him, and but he did not want to complain because his grandmother was very ill herself. And so he's a 15-year-old kid who has the rest of his life, the whole world ahead of him type deal. And here it turned out he had an acute form of aggressive leukemia and passed
Wow.
away. But here's one of the things that he said that just has incredibly impacted me. And he did not have a big following on social media or any of that kind of stuff. He was a kid in Milan, Italy, and born in France. But this is what he said: "We're all born unique, but sadly, many of us die a photocopy.
Hmm.
And I think to have that mindset as a 15-year-old, to see his uniqueness, and he did some stuff that was very unique that was internet related, uh, but didn't become a viral until years after his death. So yeah, I think it's extremely important that we understand. I call it Paul Harvey moments. Um,
Mm.
you may you may never know the impact you had. Like you said, if you're a podcaster and you only have 4 followers, but you have a video that went viral or whatever, you may never know what impact you had on somebody's life. So why not
Yep.
live your life with the mindset and the intentionality that I'm going to positively impact everybody I meet? And what, Saint Teresa of Calcutta, Mother Teresa, same kind of message. It's not about followers. It's not about your 15 seconds of fame on the news or whatever. It's about consistently every single day adding value to somebody else's life, even if nobody recognizes it and you never hear about the impact. So, well, at Mark, dude, it's so awesome to have you on. We'll have to catch up and do this again. And for our listeners, I hope you are walking away energized, inspired. And if you know somebody that needs to hear this message, uh, share it with them. Give Mark's website and follow up with him. Reach out, take that free assessment tool, and always, always remember, because warriors, servants, and leaders, this is the mindset that they have every day, every moment, is that always strive to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons. And until next week, thanks for being here. Love you all, and see you next Tuesday.